Hello. The Divine Code reading for December 6th, pages 363 and 364. We are in the chapter, The Prohibition of Grafting Different Species of Fruit Trees. Topic number 11. What is meant by a fruit tree and a fruit vine in context of the prohibited grafting? In the context of a fruit tree, it refers to fruit-bearing elam in Hebrew, and a fruit vine refers to a type of fruit-bearing yazurk in Hebrew. In Hebrew, elan is the generic name for a tree, and yurek is the generic name for a vegetable. Any perennial plant that has a trunk with leaves and fruit growing from branches is considered to be a fruit tree. This applies even if the tree withers away in the winter and a new plant grows from its surviving roots every year. She sure Tor in Shokan or Yorakaim, chapter 203. In other contexts, a plant whose trunk withers is not considered a tree, as mentioned by some opinions in Tor and Shokan or there. Nevertheless, from the Jerusalem Talmud, Tractate Plion 5:7, it appears that the distinctions in topic 9:11, that's this topic here, should be followed with regard to the fundamental definition of the categories of perennial yurek and elam. It appears that any plant that does not have perennial roots, though it may send out shoots and fruits from its branches, is not considered a tree according to all opinions. So a necessary condition is that it has perennial roots. As to what applies to it's not the only condition, but it's one of the necessary conditions as to what applies to the prohibition against cross grafting of trees, which is not only trees. If the roots of the plant cannot survive in the ground from year to year in a favorable environment, it is not considered to be a tree, despite the fact that its leaves and fruit grow from its branches. However, a fruit plant with a sturdy stem, and that would be a vegetable plant, I assume, with a sturdy stem that resembles a trunk, is also included in the prohibition. So a banana plant is considered like a tree in terms of forbidden grafting. So a banana is not really a tree. The blessing given it is fruit of the earth rather than fruit of the tree. It's considered more like a vegetable in that regard. But it's because it has a root system that survives from year to year, and it has a sturdy trunk. Even if it's not a woody trunk, but it's a sturdy trunk, and therefore the cross grafting would apply to bananas. The prohibition of cross grafting. Also grapes, capers, and cacti. Birik Yosef Yorkheim, chapter 202, teaches that one should recite a blessing of the fruit of the tree before eating sabra fruit. Therefore, this plant is considered as a tree. That's the cactus. Berry bushes and miniature trees. No, berry bushes would be under Tosefta Kliam, chapter 3, in Jerusalem, Talmud, Tractate Kliam, end of chapter 5, Rambam, the Laws of Forbidden Mixtures, 520, Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah, 296:15. That's regarding berry bushes. Also, blackberries and raspberries and all other types of perennial bushes and miniature trees. See Torah and Shulchan Aruch Orachim, chapter 203, regarding the blessing, which is recited before eating fruit from miniature trees. But all of these are considered also to be examples of plants that are under the prohibition of grafting, and for the most part, they're considered fruit of the tree. Well, yeah, for the most part, but check individual ones to know which one is which. Topic number 12. The type of fruit vines to which the prohibition applies are non-perennials that produce leaves and fruit on a thick vine that grows from its roots. So a fruit vine that would not be considered a tree, would be considered a vegetable, but it's it would also be applied under the prohibition of cross grafting. So like tomatoes, melons, squash, and cucumbers, which grow, they're perennial in that they have to be replanted every year, and they do produce leaves, and the fruit grows on a thick vine that grows from its roots. And also, Mark, it does not apply to grain. Although grain does have to be planted every year as a perennial, and it well, for the most part, not necessarily, but for the most part, and it does not produce, grain does not produce leaves, and its fruit is on a stiff grass, but it's not like a vine. It doesn't qualify as being like similar to a tree for the purpose of determining which plants can be cross grafted. Therefore, grain would not be counted towards that prohibition. See Khatam Sofer Yoreh De'ah, chapter 287. Topic number 13. There are several species of fruit several species of trees whose leaves or fruit resemble each other. Nevertheless, since these are distinct species, the prohibition against cross-grafting applies to them. For example, an apple and a crabapple, a peach and an almond, a plum and a jujube are separate species with regard to cross-grafting, even though they have some similarities. Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah, chapter 295. Similarly, a citron with a different species, such as with a different species than a lemon. A citron is a different species than a lemon. And an orange is a different species of a grapefruit than a grapefruit. Responsive Rima, chapter 117. Levush or Chaim, chapter 2, 649. Responsa of Maharam Ashaya, chapter 110. Shokan Orak Harav or Chaim, 648:31. And Katan Sulfur or Chaim, chapter 207. See Katan Ish Klian, chapters 2 and 3. So that's referring to the different. You walk into a produce store and the fruit looks very similar to each other, but they're actually from different species of trees. And those species of trees could not be cross-grafted. Topic number 13. Branches from different types of the same species of tree may be grafted upon each other. For example, it may be permitted to graft a shoot from a white fig tree onto a dark fig tree, or from a golden apple tree into a Macintosh apple tree. Likewise, pears have different families within the same species. Shokanoric or Dia. Chapter 295. The same permission applies to grafting apple trees with wild apple trees, but not crab apples, which was mentioned earlier. But an apple tree is just found in the wild. Pishke, Kavushua, York Dea, chapter 295, in the name of Mishkinok Yaakov, chapter 66, and Samachsedik Yoredea, chapter 221, writes that domestic apples are clearly the same species as wild apples with regard to grafting. And similar to the question of wild horses, wild apple trees are descendants of what used to be domesticated apple trees. I'm not sure if there actually is such a thing as a wild apple tree. But they were cultivated at some point, and if their person finds a wild apple tree out in the wild, it would be connected with the domesticated, with the bred, the cultivated apple tree. So what's referring to here is varieties that were selectively bred, not crossbred, but selectively bred within the apples and within other varieties to create certain characteristics to the fruit, but it doesn't change. That does not change the species of the tree. Thus, it is permitted to graft one fruit tree with another from the same family, even if the two fruit trees are different colors and sizes, or if they have different names, such as two types of figs or two types of apples. Shokanoric Uridea. Chapter 295. Thank you.